So for those of you that don't know about BSB Gallery, we're located in Trenton, New Jersey. We've been around since 2018. And yeah, so I'm going to get started on just kind of introducing the gallery, introducing Josie, and then I'm going to grab her in and we're going to start our interview and our studio visit. So, my name is Christy O'Connor. I'm one of BSB Gallery's curators and managers. I would like to thank you all for joining us tonight on our Instagram Live for BSB Gallery's third studio tour and interview in this series with one of our current exhibiting artists for Here We Are, on view now on our website at bsbgallery.com through June 20th, Josie Roebuck. Here We Are focuses in on women of color who have just amazing artwork, and they focus on identity and their strengths and their challenges with that. So Josie Roebuck is an interdisciplinary artist from Chattanooga, Tennessee. She received her BFA from the University of Georgia in 2019 and is currently pursuing her MFA at the University of Cincinnati. Roebuck draws inspiration from Pablo Picasso, Henry Matisse, Max Beckmann, and Kathy Kollwitz, and their depiction of the female nude appropriated to create her own narrative. Roebuck's process addresses the witnessing of reawakening a traumatic memory through the repetition of showing the pain of overcoming trauma. The act of Roebuck poking a hole with either a nail or awl is significant to sexual assault, victim reliving and telling their story over and over again. Roebuck has combined both her embroideries and paintings together to create the narrative, revealing emotion a victim feels while representing the terrifying path of healing from such an event. Josie's mixed media works range from painting, printmaking, embroidery, to now woodcuts and poetry. She has a raw and visceral quality to her portraits and words as she addresses the emotional destruction that rape does to a woman. So without further introduction, I'm going to pull Josie into our Facebook feed. I'm sorry, Instagram feed. I'm having a bit of an off night. I apologize. And I'm not finding her on the feed for some reason. That's interesting. Josie, where are you? I'm not finding Josie here. Oh no. So, I'm not sure where she is. I may have to pause and message her if I don't... Do you know, does she have to be watching in order for me to be... So, Josie just got the message to join in our feed.
So sorry, I never got a request.
Oh, I was searching for you to put it in, and I couldn't. I'm
no
sorry.
worries, it's totally fine.
Did you see me struggling?
My friend actually texted me was like, yeah, click on it. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. My bad.
That's okay. I'm so glad I didn't have to. So everyone, this is
I understand.
you look great.
Yeah.
So, anyway, after that, all of that, Josie, would you like to just tell us how you're doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm doing well. It's kind of different. I'm working from home, with my work and also my art practice. So things have been a little bit hectic around here, but tonight I'm doing well. Yeah. So thank you for asking.
Yeah. So before we get started, I do want to let everyone know this happened last time we did the Instagram live interview. Is after about if we wind up going over an hour, it may decide to end automatically, and then I'll have to pull you back on if that happens. It'll give me a countdown and it will tell me, and then I'll be like, oh we have to stop for a second. Okay, so Josie, I just want to thank you for being with us tonight on this Instagram live interview. And so basically I'm going to ask you questions about your practice. People can join in and ask questions on the feed, and I'll read them to you. And at the end, we'll do a little tour of your studio, see what you're working on.
Okay, sounds great.
Perfect. So I guess let's start by you just sharing a little bit about yourself, your history, your practice, and who you are.
Yeah, I would love to. So my practice has kind of been a little different probably than most artists. I mean, art has always been a part of my life. In high school, I took a lot of art classes, and during that time, I was really focusing on ceramics, and I kind of thought that's what I would do in college. But when I actually got to college, I was a full-time student athlete, and so I just didn't have the time, and I also was really wanting to be a special ed teacher. That's something that's always been in my heart, is to help. I got to really find something that I love to do, and that's kind of where I jumped past and started getting my BFA with an emphasis in drawing and painting. And so it wasn't until I met a particular professor during my art career is when it kind of sold it on, this is what you should do. You should be an artist, use your voice to showcase what you have to say. And so, he opened my eyes to the art world. He opened my eyes to how powerful a voice can be through artwork, and kind of, I don't know, that gave me the courage and the strength to become an artist, and kind of where I am now, and why I'm making this work is not only am I a victim, but also this power that I can have with my voice.
Nice. I love hearing about people's journeys because they're all, it's always so different. Like some people just think, I'm going ahead and I'm doing this thing all the way through, and that doesn't always happen. You have to figure it out along the way.
100. Yeah, I thought I was going to be playing soccer until I was old, but obviously that didn't happen. Totally, yeah.
So, could you tell us a little bit about how your background influences your work?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, special ed has been a particular thing that I've been interested in, mainly because I have a learning disability, and I know the struggles of how to go into school is like. And the pressures of succeeding, and I wanted to just help people, and I see that coming into my work. Even though my work is about sexual assault, I am here to educate people about the emotional destruction that can occur, and also to help survivors heal. So I mean, they're somewhat different, but they also feed off of each other, I think.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about how you started out with ceramics, and then you focused in on painting, and was it printmaking?
I've kind of been all over the place.
Okay.
I'm a type of person that is always looking for something new, any new material or medium to try out. I mean, I've done sculpting, I've done, like you said, printmaking, I've done cutouts because of my inspiration with Matisse. I'm always my work is always progressing, and I'm always looking for that new technique that I can learn and kind of like really push my artwork with. And that's kind of why I'm like a multimedia artist. Is like, I want to add all these textures. I want to add all these different things to it. And that's something that brings me joy, is finding something that I can really incorporate with my embroidery or with my paintings or whatever medium I'm using at the time.
Nice. So at what point did you begin the embroidery in your artwork? Because I've been looking at your artwork.
Yeah.
and I know that you have you started with doing raw embroideries, and then you also embroider onto your paintings. And I just I guess what came first, I guess, is my question. And what
I'll start from the beginning. So I started embroidery this past fall. I was looking for a way that I could mimic my painting style with a different medium. And so when I first started, I was working on burlap, and I was focusing on portraiture. And so they were very small. They were like 4 by 6 inches or smaller. And I was kind of just testing the water, seeing how I liked it. And it wasn't until I had a visit with a visiting artist at Cincinnati who kind of said, these are great, these are powerful, but it looks like you're just doing portraiture to see if you can actually do it with embroidery, which at the time really kind of irritated me. And I was like, I'm going to prove you wrong. So that's why I kind of scaled up my work and started bringing in all these different mediums with it. And I'm glad that visiting artist said that, because I probably wouldn't be where I am with the wood cutouts or sewing into my paintings. So that was kind of the really push that I needed to hear to bring about this work.
Nice. And tell us about the importance of the process of embroidery in your work.
Yeah, I mean, sewing and embroidery has a lot of history, and to me holds a particular significance in the message that I'm trying to create. It symbolizes to me what a victim goes through, the reliving of their story, either by sharing it with someone or having flashbacks or just anything that could trigger a victim and what has happened to them. And so the act of me, poking a hole into either wood or canvas or whatever material I'm using is, it's opening that wound again, because you're sharing with the world, but it's also closing it. So it's allowing this healing process to occur alongside of it. So there's kind of like two things that are happening, and that's kind of why I started continuing this work.
And the sewing that you're doing into the wood cuts, what is, I guess, do you have to plan out where the holes are going first to drill them in?
I probably should, but
Okay.
It's more of like an instinct for me. So as of right now, my kind of wood cutouts have changed slightly. I started painting first, and then I'll either add the stitching or add the oil pastel to it. So it kind of depends which step goes next. And so either I'll pick a certain area where I think needs to be stitched and kind of do those holes first, and then kind of leave it alone. And then often I will go back and re-add holes in places that needs to be stitched more. So it's kind of like more of an instinct thing for me.
And you also, with a lot of your pieces, you use camouflaging with your figures. What is the importance and the significance of that?
Yeah, so again, last fall, I was really intrigued by the concept of camouflage, and also I was questioning what a safe space was for a victim of sexual assault, because often, like, our homes or any favorite comfort place will no longer feel safe anymore. And so I wanted to bring about this idea of a victim blending in with either their interior space or kind of blending in with the people around them, and that's the idea of wanting to somewhat forget their story in order to survive and move on again is kind of the idea that is driving the camouflage.
And how has this particular subject matter of sexual violence and trauma helped you in your own healing process and journey?
Yeah, so this body of work I actually started 4 years ago in undergrad, and during that time I couldn't own that it was my own story. Essentially, I was hiding behind my canvas and kind of pretending that I wasn't a victim. But now, being somewhat more comfortable, I can see that I've grown as a person and as an artist by being able to listen to other survivors and their stories and providing help when they need it. Others is a part of my healing process.
Thanks. And your work and your subject matter is very multifaceted, and so it's so important, especially in terms of the message you're sending and who is receiving it.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to know, when creating, do you have a specific audience in mind to receive that message?
My artwork is for everyone. Everyone might have a different perception of what I'm trying to say, but I kind of have two messages when my work is out there. One is to educate people on the emotional destruction that actually occurs and to really show a true story of what sexual assault can do to someone. And then the second message is kind of for the survivors. It's to show that, hey, you're not alone. I'm here to help, and your voice is important and needs to be heard. So, I mean, it's for everyone. I know people have different messages taking away from it, but those are the message that I am trying to get across.
Yeah. And now, do you believe that the message changes when different viewers see the work?
I think in undergrad it definitely did. My work was much more dark with the compositions I was creating and the narrative that I was trying to create, and I know that I did trigger some survivors, so I'm being more conscious with that and trying to allow everyone to feel more comfortable with viewing such a horrific subject matter, one that is really hard to talk about and some people still can't. So I've been more mindful of that so everyone can, be able to view it or talk about it with me, which has, since I've done that, I've received a lot of good responses to it, and they're able to talk to me about it, share their own stories with me, or just kind of somehow relate to what I'm talking about, which has been really good for me to experience as a person and as an artist.
Yeah.
So.
Nice. And for those that do get to interact with you and your artwork, what is your hope that they gain after being able to see your work and take it in? Yeah.
Kind of mentioned a little bit before, but I hope they can walk away with the true story of, a sexual traumatic experience, which is not true. I mean, yes, we are the same by being a victim, but our stories are totally different, and we have different ways of healing. So I hope they get the grasp of what's actually true. And I also want them to witness the strength and courage that a victim has in order to speak up about what has happened to them, or just sharing their story with their loved ones.
Would you consider your artwork a form of political action?
Yeah, well, it definitely can be seen as one. And I think in undergrad, I was sort of tackling the Me Too movement when I first started. And so it began as one. But once I started reclaiming my story, I think it's become too personal now that I cannot see it as one. I mean, everyone else might see it as a political action, but to me, because it's so personal, I cannot.
That makes a lot of sense. What has the general reception been to your work from different audiences? Because I mean, it's a tough subject, and it's a tough subject for people to sometimes even want to see.
Yeah. So usually it's been pretty good. Usually I'm having good conversations with people. They're sharing what has happened to them, or like family members. I haven't really had any pushback. I think the only thing that I've received is people don't want to speak about it, or, they might have a story, but they're not ready to share, or, maybe admit that they are a victim as well, which I understand. I didn't want to do that as well. I know how hard it can be. So, I mean, usually it's good. It depends, I guess, on the day and how people perceive things. And so, I mean, I haven't had any bad negative feedback on it, so it's been all good.
That's good. And so with some of your pieces, one of the pieces you have in the show, actually, including you've started to touch upon your biracial background a little bit, but you haven't fully. It doesn't seem like you fully delved into that subject matter. And my question to you on that is it because it's a new focus in your work, or is it because you don't want to necessarily cloud the other stories and messaging in your work that you already?
In time, I'm not entirely sure the direction that I want to take that work. It's something that I really need to process and write more about what narrative I want to show to the world. And it's really hard for me to do that because my sexual assault subject matter and my biracial background, to me, are totally different things. And so I'm having a hard time shifting between the two and really focusing on one or the other at the moment. I still want to continue this new subject matter, but I think I really need to sit down with myself and think about the best way I should say what I need to say. Nice.
I really love and appreciate the fact that you're so thoughtful in your process and your work. You really seem like you just, everything that you do, there's a lot of thought behind. And
yeah, I think it comes because I am a big feeler, and a lot of things that I do is from my heart. And so even with my artwork, it's coming from a good place in my heart, and I want to help people and also help myself. And so I think that helps with articulating things for me is this is true, and it's something that needs to be shared.
And so when you're working on your current body of work that you are really focusing in on right now in sexual assault and trauma, when you're focusing in on this topic, do you feel like you're focusing more on the individuals it has affected, the system as a whole, or both, or something totally different?
You're speaking of the body work I haven't really delved into, correct?
No.
Or the other one?
The other body of work. Okay. I'm sorry, I shifted.
Yeah, no worries.
That's my fault.
No worries. Is important, and I think there are places where people should be talking about the system, but I'm not ready to do that. I want to hear firsthand what has happened to them, what has made them be able to, move on somewhat in life and kind of forget this experience that has altered it somehow. And so it's more about the individual, what they have to say, and the power behind their voice.
Nice. And, wow, we're in your studio.
Yes, we're in my living room studio.
We're at that point. So, so basically, if you want to take us around your studio and show us what you're working on right now, if anyone has any questions that they want to share in the feed, this would be a perfect time. If especially if I didn't cover anything that someone is interested in learning more about Josie with.
Yeah. So I'll show you some of my new work if I can figure out how to flip my camera. Oh, perfect. Okay. So this is quite large. I don't think I can back it up fully to show everything, but these are my new wood cutouts, and I'll get closer so you can see them. And so with hold on, let me show and then talk because I can't multitask. So yeah, so this new body of work, I'm really trying to make it larger, and I want to incorporate my unstretched canvas. And so there's a lot of things I still need to figure out with this piece. The painting is nowhere near finished. I need to add a lot more layers to it and figure out the composition of these three figures. But that's kind of like the new direction I'm taking, is trying to combine my large scale paintings with my wood cutouts now. And so, yeah, that's kind of that piece. And then I'll show you two more that I finished up while being in quarantined. But yeah, so these are two separate wood cutouts here. And then this one is about, it's titled I Forgive You. And it's addressing the perpetrator who has basically altered a victim's life, and what that is to actually forgive someone for the horrific act that they imposed on someone, and how that is a part of that healing process. And then, so this piece right here is a smaller wood cutout. And this is actually probably the first piece that I started to paint on my wood cutouts, along with stitching and adding fabric to it. And then, so this one is also, well, it is titled I Hear Your Cries. It's basically reaching out to survivor and saying, I know your pain, I know what has happened to you, and that you're not alone, and I'm here for you. So that's kind of what's going on in my life. More wood cutouts, adding large-scale paintings with it, and trying to figure out how those two can work together. So, yeah, it's kind of not much to show at the moment because my apartment's so small and I can't work as much as I normally do.
I'm sorry.
It's life. It's the pandemic. You know, I don't want to get sick, so it's perfect.
Yeah, it's important.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question about the first set of wood cutouts you showed us?
Yeah, absolutely.
So are they three separate individual pieces meant to be shown together, or?
Yeah. So I'm not entirely sure how I plan to show them. Let me back up. This is hard. But yes, they're absolutely separate pieces, and right now I have them stitched into either the stretcher bars or the canvas, so that they're, because the thread is not strong enough and they will probably collapse one day. So that's kind of the direction I'm going in, is making them a part of the painting, but not necessarily a part, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's really cool though. I like that.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Josie or comments? Friends? Well, that's okay. Josie, do you have anything coming up in the near future? Or I know you're also enrolled in an MFA program too, correct?
Yes. So I'm going into my second year this coming fall, and I'll hopefully graduate in the spring. Depending, I guess, on the virus. They still haven't decided about school and how things are going to return in the fall. But I do have an upcoming show in August. Again, still depending on the virus, but it is planned for August, and it will be in Atlanta. And so it's with Versa Gallery and Chattanooga, and that's kind of what this newer work maybe will go for.
Okay.
Just depending on how I figure things out and how that all works. But yeah, so new things. Also waiting to hear back from an online magazine, so hopefully getting somewhat published. So got things going on, but yeah,
nice.
Kind of slowing down at the moment.
So we have some questions, and I messed up trying to look at them, so I'm at the top of the feed.
Okay, so I think the first question is, what's a typical day for you?
Yes, that was the first question.
Yeah, well, it's summer now, so a typical day is probably waking up at 7 or 8. Well, it kind of depends on my cat if he wakes me up. making coffee, and then I'm working on, I'm on a part of a research team with the school right now. My art director is writing a book, and so I'm helping her write Instagram posts for specific artists and kind of getting her research going so that she can actually write her book. So that's typically what my day is like now, and then trying to squeeze in some sewing or painting time at the end of the day. So yeah.
That's really cool. And are we privy to know what the book is about?
So it's the blurring line between museum and public art, and kind of like how that is all working, especially during a pandemic like now. And so really in the beginning research stages, so it's hard to articulate right now, especially since I'm not writing the book. Yeah.
That's a very, very cool assignment, though, that you have.
Yeah, it's been fun, especially learning about all these different artists and what they've done. So, and if you outside, so yeah. And also, we should mention your Instagram as well, Josie. Yes. So if you would like to follow me, it is Josie. Maybe I should type it. Maybe that's easier.
Yeah.
So let me do that. Okay. Perfect. So yeah. So my Instagram account is in the comments section if you would like to follow me and see what I'm working on throughout the summer or whenever. That'd be awesome.
And so we have another question from Birth by Birth asking, what do you start with, an image or an idea?
Let's see. It depends on the emotion I'm feeling that day. So either the specific image that I want to, draw or paint to create my narrative, or I have a specific kind of feeling that needs to be expressed, and then that's how I choose my imagery. It really just depends on what I'm trying to say and what needs to be said, and that's how I choose. So yeah, it just kind of depends on the message that I'm creating before.
So I think we're about that time to wrap things up. I just wanted to add that, this is such a complex topic, and we need more artists out there tackling the subject matter, and it just something that just affects all of us and on so many levels, historically, culturally. All races, genders, religions are affected by this topic. And I just want to commend you for being brave enough to be one of those artists to focus on it. We know each other a little on our personal Instagram, so this is a very personal subject matter for me that as well. So it's a difficult topic, and I'm glad you're working on it, and keep doing what you're doing, because it's great stuff.
Thank you.
And so I'd like to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Please be sure to follow us on our social media for updates and information on our virtual events, and we slowly transition back, hopefully out of coronavirus mode and back into the real world. Our last artist interview and studio tour with Here We Are is Kamika Patton on Thursday, June 11th at 7 p.m. You can check us out virtually on our website at bsbgallery.com and see all of the artists, all of their artwork.